2025 was yet again a staggering year for games releases. So much so that even though I played dozens of titles across the past 12 months, I've still barely scratched the surface. What I wanted to do in this video is highlight some of those lesser known or at least lesser talked about games that caught my attention, experiences I have played extensively myself, ones waxed lyrical about by trusted friends and notable online personalities, works that I knew nothing about before taking a well-rewarded leap of faith on a chance encounter with the algorithm, and those I've kept quietly on my wishlist for a rainy day. To respect my sanity and for a little cognitive synergy, I've kept this list to 25 titles that I think you should be paying attention to as the year comes to an end. A road trip in the form of a roguelike, expressing the trials and tribulations of trying to get from A to B. Time and the element are not on your side, your resources ever dwindling. It'll be a miracle if you can even make it halfway in your rickety hand-me-down automobile. But God, can you imagine the energy of the experience? The road ahead of you as full of wonder as it is peril? Blasting tunes on the stereo, watching the horizon skip on by and knowing that no matter the destination, the journey will end up shaping both the experience and you. I bought Many Nights a Whisper at launch, so enamoured with its premise that I simply could not say no, and then it just sat on my desktop for months on end, staring at me, waiting for me to be ready to engage with what it has to offer. One shot determines the fate of a generation. A community instills the best and worst of their hopes and dreams on this singular act of ritualistic masochism. Paralysed by the implications of my own responsibility, I eventually, in nerve-wracked steps, ventured in, and what awaited me was, well, it's £2 and an hour long. Go play it and see for yourself.
On what it's going to be like.
I've always had a soft spot for this kind of quirky point-and-click experience. Reminiscent of the interactive CD-ROMs that got me into gaming in the first place, this is an oddball collection of dioramas that require some creative prodding and manoeuvring to navigate. There are touches of Madison Carr's work to be found here, that cutesy macabre lilt, but it remains a peculiar and unique statement of intent. Artistically rich, an extremely unusual narrative that's a lot darker than it initially seems. I played this when it launched towards the beginning of the year. I'm still not quite sure what to make of it. You can't sleep. Something is preying on you. In your mind, in your dreams, even outside the walls of the house you once thought of as sanctuary. There are answers out there, of course, the cryptic ramblings of the man in the gas mask, but is it safe to venture forth? Without a Dawn is a short, sharp visual novel that has, above anything else, a really great atmosphere and incredible sound design. Not for the faint of heart, it explores some extremely uncomfortable themes, but importantly, it understands the responsibility it has to that exploration, all of which delivered through this incredibly striking art style, amping up the waking nightmare unfurling in front of you. This is a single session experience, one for a cold, dark, rainy night and some nerves of steel. Navicula Meatus is, among other things, a puzzle game about figuring out what the hell it even wants from you. Nothing is legible. The inhabitants of this world speak a language you cannot understand. The requests seem impossible to pass. A sequence of icons with little feedback as to what they are or why they're even wanted. It's fascinating. I couldn't get enough of this, and somehow, despite its best efforts, we eventually came to understand one another in a way that makes me think this game is a lot more clever than it initially seems. It's like Chants of Sennaar without the translation, and a lot more disgusting looking. This pint-size search action title is fast-paced, fiendishly difficult, and quick to return you to the scene of the crime should you biff it. In many ways it reminds me more of Hotline Miami than Metroid, its precision platforming amping the punishment factor to 11, but that cycle back to try again being so rapid allows this game to become deliciously compelling. Rather interestingly, despite harboring a labyrinth of dangerous foes to navigate, including boss encounters, you don't possess the means to fight back, which grants the game an interesting design challenge that it meets with remarkable flair. Fans of anything ranging from Celeste to Hollow Knight will find something to love here, I'm sure. Beyond the gorgeous art style that made this title stand out to me at first, Sol Cesto is an experience that luxuriates in simplicity. 4 rows of 4, each square with a percentage chance to land upon it, a boon or consequence in the mix for your wayward adventurer. In that simplicity, the game finds a raft of options that brings strategy, tactics, and that ever-engaging roguelike charm that's kept me coming back for more. This is in early access, but it is a work in progress well pampered. Subsequent updates offer new morsels of mystery that kept me returning periodically throughout the year. I think this is one to keep an eye on. A lovely little game about cleaning up oil spills. That's it. That's the pitch. This ocean-cleansing flight of fancy satisfies in the way that games like Power Wash Simulator do. The methodical process of clearing an area of that nasty black stuff, banking all those pollutants for a currency that allows you to upgrade your little tugboat to clear more, store more, and race across the sea at a higher rate of knots. S.p.l.i.t is something that I feel deserves more eyes on it simply for the fact that sometimes all you want from a game is a nice time, completing tasks, pottering about a beautifully rendered world, low stakes, a solid message about protecting the environment. It was even made on a boat. How's that for practicing what you preach? Eagle-eyed viewers will recognise that this is a follow-up to 20 Small Mazes, which featured on my Cool Games for Free video from last year. Developer Fleb has a charming art style and a fiendish penchant for puzzles that end up being more complicated than first meets the eye, and Strange Jigsaws is no deviation in form. A really fascinating game that somehow keeps going and going and going, each strata of ideas more out the box and bizarre than the previous. Recursion, time travel, at least one puzzle that was designed by what I imagine is Fleb's child, which isn't mind-bending, I guess, but it is very cute. A genuinely brilliant game that has loads to offer. I can't recommend it enough. What's more horrifying to you? A scary monster? Or your own inability to escape from it? That recurring dream of the desperate need to run at a time when your legs have turned to jelly, headstrong but with the sense that you're not in your own body. Caput Mortum is a puzzly survival horror where the unique selling point is this bizarre and cumbersome control scheme. Actions requiring precise use of the right analog stick and a sense of spatial awareness I very rarely get from games. Add peril into the mix and you have what is essentially a litmus test for grace under pressure. I really dug the vibes of this when I played the demo earlier in the year. I'm not sure if I have the stomach for the full release, but all accounts from those I follow is that this is something of a sleeper hit. We really need to celebrate weird projects like this. Cat people and highwaymen trapped in an eternal conflict in the bowels of an infinitely oppressive megastructure. Your weapons are futile, your ammunition is sparse, your body is at risk of decimation. There is no way out. There is no choice but to fight. Metal Garden is a remarkable experience for a number of reasons, not the least that it's an indie game that feels premium and polished, but in the way that games in the early 2000s were. This is Halo by way of outsider art, a rift in time that allowed us a glimpse into the brain space of a group of people not content with trend setting. Being less hyperbolic for a moment, what we have here is a solid first-person shooter within a setting packed full of secrets, and a journey that remains engaging from start to finish. It desperately needs more eyes on it. Quartet is an incredibly accomplished 16-bit JRPG that, while I've only played a small amount of, feels like a perfect addition to this new batch of retro-esque genre staples. When developers look back at what they really loved about those old-school experiences and then, rather than copy it wholesale, take that inspiration to make something new, that's really special. From what I've seen so far, the world is fun to explore, the writing is surprisingly solid, and the combat system is intricate and engaging. The game being divided into 4 separate stories gives it a structure seldom seen in this genre, evoking the anthology sensibilities of Live Alive and Octopath Traveler. This is staying on my radar until I find time to properly dig in. Easy Delivery Company is a delivery sim. You accept jobs to ferry goods between the towns of this ice-strewn mountainside community, wobbly things that seem destined to leap out of the back of your dinky little K-truck at the slightest provocation. Not that it would matter all that much if they did. There are no time limits here, a raft of personal goals to meet at your discretion, and an ever-expanding map to explore. It would be cozy, if not for this constant sense of dread. The world of Easy Delivery Company feels on the cusp of annihilation. Streets are always empty because of the biting cold, a blinding frost creeping rapidly upon you every time you step outside. It's a lonely experience, with only the lo-fi tunes on the radio to keep you company and a few scant conversations with your customers that read an awful lot like an Animal Crossing creepypasta. Horror by some adjacent quantity, a fascinating little thing to engage with. It's golf, but it's not golf. It's a disembodied pair of shears cutting hedgerows. But it is using golf rules, so is it golf? Fucking hell, this is the sort of shit that kept Socrates up at night. The various holes seem simple but can be deceptively challenging considering that they are kind of puzzles where the solution is not how to complete them but how to get them under par. It's a simple premise, well executed, but the thing that really charmed me about Trimjob is how funny it is. That wibbly 2D N64 vibe coupled with the occasional blurts of expletives from a Super Smash Bros style announcer really brings the whole experience together. It's also £3. 3 English pounds. What else can you get for that? Nothing. Bargain of the century. Hacking as horror. The tension of complex tasks meeting unchecked paranoia. S.p.l.i.t is a short, fiddly narrative experience about breaking into an unnamed database. It's a game about understanding directories, editing permissions, and communicating changes to your allies, but the thing I found most striking about this game was a simple feature, the ability to look over your shoulder. There are monitors and devices in this room, you move between them depending on what you need to reference or access, but also a small solitary window you can check at any point. The way this is used to sow seeds of fear and doubt in your mind as you stress over how to make sense of this evidently dangerous task is incredible. What happens when you're a detective? Interrogations are needed, but you are unable to speak. This is the starting point of this fascinating short experience where you are tasked with investigating a strange haunting of a swampland homestead. Objects, creatures, and people once encountered have their essence imbued into cards that you then use to pursue lines of questioning, all in order to discover a story left untold. The end result is a weird mix of horror and surprisingly poignant drama. It feels a bit Burton-esque at times, the imagination captured handsomely by a great art style and some charmingly creepy residents to interrogate. The format seems ripe for further elaboration at some point down the line. Carimara as its own Golden Idol-esque platform for a range of different stories. I do hope we get more of these. The true dark horse of this list, Lovely Lady RPG is the one game I don't think I would have ever come across without some direct influence from other people who talk about games. Sold to me on the strength of its writing, this striking visual novel is... you know what, it's a bit of a weird one. Definitely a matter of taste, not quality. What I found in engaging with this work is literature both rich and purposeful and incredibly cringe. And I don't mean that derogatorily. However you end up taking it, the whole production is something valuable, an exploration of post-war trauma, the grief of trying to exist as a trans person, all the while contending with this punishing time limit that means you never truly are able to meet all of your goals, and living in a world where even subsistence isn't guaranteed. It's bleak, but the incredibly funny kind of bleak. It's essentially gay, furry Disco Elysium, and I know that collection of words will be dynamite to some of you. While I've not actually played Moon Remix RPG Adventure, through cultural osmosis I know enough about it to get excited for this spiritual successor. Stray Children is a really striking game, seemingly pulled from the past. It captures that same visual style that made its ancestors so compelling. Low fidelity sprite work, minimal user interface, there aren't even text boxes, dialogue plants itself elegantly front and centre. It feels right off the bat that we've picked up exactly where we've left off. However, where Moon was considered an anti-RPG, this new offering feels right at home within those oft-mimicked tropes. In many regards, it's quite conventional, if not for how odd everything is. After all, you're trapped in a cursed video game where all the adults have been transformed into horrifying monsters, hunting down the body parts of your recently eviscerated father. And that's not even the weird bit. Trapped in a gargantuan subterranean industrial complex, two robots attempt to find a way to break out. This is the setup for Hypogea, a wonderfully intuitive platformer that channels the likes of Fumito Ueda and the original Tomb Raider trilogy. Climb, jump, and pole vault your way across an atmospheric megastructure where every new area brings with it a unique flavour to the core mechanics. It's impressively put together, a remarkable effort given that it's predominantly the work of a solo dev. Charming and tender, despite its more serious undertones, those wordless mechanical protagonists are imbued with so much character that it's impossible not to fall in love with this game. It's not a genre I typically engage with, but Birdcage is certainly enticing from a presentation standpoint. Facing off against waves of foes in your fight to destroy the world egg and free yourself from the titular cage, there's a brilliant synergy of ideas to be found here. Analog directional sword combat in my vertical space shooter? It works better than you'd think. Coupled with this is a great Kojima-esque PS1 aesthetic that capitalizes on great weird sci-fi ideas, codec calls, absurdly named objects and characters. Another banger soundtrack from Paradise Killer composer Barry Topping. What's not to love? Death is a sacred but profanely personal thing, and it's often hard to know what we do with the knowledge of someone we love moving on. How would we feel if there was a chance at immortality, but only in the afterlife? This is the question posed by Ambrosia Sky, an oddly poignant mashup of Bioshock and Power Wash Simulator that has you navigating fungus-infested space stations in search of the remains of those you once called family, venturing through treacherous infestations and your own crippling sense of loss in the process. It's an odd mix, the satisfaction of clearing out fungal spores seemingly at odds with the narrative throughline, but at the same time wholly resonating with it. Decay as an extant form of life. Nothing truly ever dies. Only the first act of a much bigger project is available right now, but it's an impressive start that left me clamouring for more. A search-action adventure with a great art style that seems to be channeling cyberpunk edgerunners and the collective works of Supergiant Games. Possessors is the latest offering from Hyper-Light Drifter dev Heart Machine, and honestly, it's a banger. Tight combat, exploration and navigation loops, a compelling narrative featuring a demon and a human forced to share the same body. One of the enemy types is a demonic vending machine that shoots soda cans at you. There's enough intrigue here to grab my attention, and it does help to know that those affected by the recent layoffs at the studio will still benefit from existing rev share agreements. That should be the standard, really, even if the better case scenario would have been a bunch of incredibly talented folks not losing their jobs right before putting something this good out into the world. Dice and Goblins is a fairly traditional dungeon crawler, albeit one with a great art style. You navigate the floors of a nicely ornate dungeon, avoiding traps, figuring out routes, fighting enemies, and trying to survive. All quite standard, but combat has this really interesting twist. Dice rolls work in a startlingly wide variety of ways. Equipment determines strategy as different combinations of numbers issue different effects, both positive and negative. And it's not just your own state of affairs you have to be mindful of. What might be a boon to you in the moment could easily benefit your foe if you're not careful, negating damage dealt or healing them in the process. Because of this, you have to think more strategically about your options, and in a way this transforms fights into a series of emergent puzzle boxes for you to decipher. This game is excellent, and I only wish for more eyes to gaze upon it. A new contender to Shin Megami Tensei's throne, maybe? This isometric tactical RPG feels like it's got all the trappings of a sleeper hit. The combination of 2D sprite work and 3D environments really fits perfectly with the whole tone this game is presenting. Evocation of the past without becoming a direct pastiche, and having a healthy visual identity of its own. Combat is all about positioning, deflection, and zones, sitting somewhere between chess and rugby, where all actions are cued at the same time, but the results can sometimes surprise you. It's another title that really impressed me when I played the demo a while ago, but I'm sure the real meat of the experience comes from the full game, which I'm really looking forward to checking out in depth in the future. The original Brush Burial was featured on my first Cool Games for a Fiver video a couple of years ago, and it's an impressive, quirky take on the immersive sim. A game all about finding opportunity through constraint and utilising an unusual control scheme entirely befitting a character who's not quite human. This sequel seems like it's doing what all good sequels do, taking what already worked, expanding on it, refining it, and throwing a few significant new tricks in the bag too, with smoother options for getting yourself out of dangerous combat situations. These great new animations showing off the takedowns you can do. They've also made the main character's design way hornier, if that's your thing. I could have made this list twice, even 3 times as long with the number of great games that flew under the radar this year, and honestly I did think about it. What's present in this list doesn't even include my Game of the Year contenders, which will feature in a separate video. Personal taste and wallet health permitting, you could easily find a new game every single day that has been made lovingly, with care and thought. There is good shit everywhere, and sadly, thanks to the way algorithms reward banality, nowhere too. My Steam wishlist is a cold storage facility of works I really want to find the time to engage with at some point, but I know that by not engaging in those critical first months of release, I too am contributing to the vanishing of artistic endeavours in the cultural spotlight. So for a bit of cross-media pollination, if you want to find out what else tickled my fancy this year, head on over to my Substack, where there will be more words on cool games coming in the near future. Until then, let me know if you played any of the games featured in this video, and what you thought of them. What's a title you wish more people knew about that came out this year? And until next time, stay safe, stay fed, and have a happy Christmas.